Welcome to HortTube. My name is Jim Putnam. I'm surrounded by magnolias. I'm actually standing in our vegetable garden here in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I have 5 magnolias that I'm actually going to plant into the ground here. They're just going to be stored in place. They're eventually going to be the first plants added at the new garden down in Wallace, North Carolina. So if you're following along with the channel, you know that we have a new garden project coming up on a pretty big space. It's going to be a little while before we can get a couple things into the ground, but we're already collecting plants for it. And we had a cucumber plant here that was dying back, and another one that's happening too. You know, we're at the beginning of August here, and a few of our vegetable plants are, you know, starting to decline. It's kind of normal with the kind of heat we've had this summer, but we still getting a ton of tomatoes out of here every day. But we went down to Spartanburg Community College and got to hang out on their beautiful campus down in Spartanburg, South Carolina, with Kevin Parris, who's a magnolia breeder, and he's introduced a few magnolias into the trade. And here's a little from Kevin down there about their program at Spartanburg Community College.
We're at Spartanburg Community College, and we have a program that is now going into its 53rd year of existence. Jimmy Painter started this program those years ago, and now I'm the Arboretum Director. Jason Bagwell is our department chair. Jay Moore is our director of sustainable agriculture, and we also have Kelly Lewis on staff. So we've got a great staff of 4 passionate horticulturists and 100 acres to practice horticulture on.
Oh wow! Okay, so this is a 2-year program.
2-year associate's degree,
okay,
horticulture technology.
In horticulture technology. So your students are going to leave here and go to greenhouse, to nurseries, or landscape, or
all of the above.
All of the above.
They'll continue their education at a 4-year institution.
Right.
We are proud to say we currently have a graduate that is now on staff at Oregon State University.
Wow. Okay.
We have our first graduate in the last year that went on to obtain his PhD.
Okay, wow.
So we're really proud of all our graduates.
And they've basically got they've got a large space to play with and learn. I mean, there you have a great collection of plants and a lot of passion around this. So Kevin and I have run into one another a few times over the years, and he named a magnolia a long time ago that is one of the better evergreen magnolias on the market to this day, and it's been around now for 30 years.
Goes back to 1998 is when the first ones were actually introduced into the market.
Into the market. So you want to tell folks about your magnolia and many more magnolias. We're going to see a couple more, but this one was the start.
When I was a student at Clemson University in the 80s, I lost my mother pretty suddenly, and thought if I ever find a cool plant, I'd like to put her name on it. And surprisingly, within about 5 years of completing that degree and going to work for Gilbert's Nursery, I planted a little crop of Little Jim magnolia seed that I'd harvested. 12 seed germinated. This was one of them. And I can remember when it was 2 years from the day the seed went in the container in the greenhouse, that it was this tall and it had 4 flowers on it.
Yeah.
And I love opening Michael Durr's book, and I can recite parts of it. Yeah. And I remember him talking about how great Bracken's brown beauty was, and that Ray Bracken had selected that plant at 4 years of age because it flowered so early.
Right.
And as a naive 20-something-year-old kid, I thought, I've got a plant that's twice as good as Bracken's brown beauty because it bloomed twice as fast.
Right.
And that's the whole reason I put my mother's name on it. Really out of that naive excitement.
But it did turn out.
And it turned out into a really good, cold hardy, narrow habit in the grand scheme of magnolias.
So you think it was a cross between Bracken's Brown Beauty and Little Jim?
Yeah, it was harvested from a nursery that had both of those in production in the field.
Weirdly, that's the 2 big leaf magnolias, southern magnolias I grew at my nurseries. And I imagine there's a lot like that. So, so you harvested the seed, and then what makes this plant unique?
We have gotten reports now over the decades of cold hardiness. Well into the mid-Atlantic. I've corresponded with a gentleman from Michigan that's had one outdoors for several winters.
Right.
I've seen it in Chicago Botanic Garden.
Right, yeah.
So for southern magnolia, it's got surprising cold hardiness.
Yeah.
But blooms at an early age, great brown endomentum.
Yes.
I'm a big fan of Erin Weston and what she
Yes.
does with using these branches in arrangements and wreaths. So it really lends itself
Right.
to little special practices like that.
And believe it or not, when I've talked about Little Gem in the past, I thought about, yeah, you get a slightly smaller plant, but you give up some of the brown coloration on the back of the leaf.
Yeah.
This one kind of gains it back.
Gains it back.
Yeah, it's a similar size leaf to Little
and,
Gem, but it's got the great brown back on it.
And the undulating margin is kind of like a Pringles potato chip.
Yeah, right.
When you bundle those together in arrangements, they nestle in pretty neatly. It really
Right.
lends itself to doing things like that.
So I'm going to link the and they do look great in reads. I'm going to link an article that Kevin wrote that I think you definitely want to read down below this video. And in this story, Dr. Durr's in the story, and J.C. Ralston's in the story, and many of the people that you've seen or not seen or heard about on the channel over the years, and have been videos on the channel, are part of this story of what made this, from the seed that you planted to it actually being on the market.
It's all happenstance.
Right, yeah.
You know, you hand the plant to somebody that's a good plantsman,
Yeah.
and good things will come of it
Right.
if you share that plant. So I think that's the important part of the story.
Nice. Let's go to another group. How many acres is just this little space that's, I know you are gardening the entire campus, but in the space that you're able to just call a botanic garden, basically?
We're fortunate there are 11 acres in the lower half of campus that sort of straddle a creek. So we're kind of on either side of a floodplain, and we're able to be pretty creative across 11 acres of the campus, which is a total of 100.
Right. It's interesting to have Erin's name come up in a video, because I've known her, I knew her dad for a long time, as a daylily grower, and then Erin Weston, Weston Farms. I think Garner, they're sure they have a Garner address, but she uses your great magnolia to make wreaths that she sends literally all over the world.
Yeah.
Literally all over the world. And you've got a hedge of them like this, so you can just keep them smaller.
Yeah, these are on about 4 to 5 foot centers, and learning from what Erin did, we cut these back annually. We're supported, our Arboretum, we have an event every year. It's a fundraiser.
Yeah.
And some of our top donors, as a thank you every year, we give them a magnolia wreath, and that's primarily why this hedge is here.
Right.
So it serves as both a source of wreath material and cutting stock, because we have a nursery area and we grow plant material as a fundraiser for our department also. So we're able to grow about 100 K. Parris magnolia pretty easily off of nice juvenile stock that we have on this little block here.
Right, nice. The interesting thing about these magnolia wreaths is you just basically have to retighten them when they dry out a bit, retighten the wreath, and you can keep them year over year.
Right.
They actually hold up.
I've actually spray painted mine silver and gold and kept them for as long as 3 years.
Okay, wow. But anyway, this is a hedge. You can, if you want to, you can get 6 or 7 K. Parris magnolias, make a small hedge between you and a neighbor, and then decorate your house at Christmas.
Yeah, people overlook that about southern magnolia is it is a better rejuvenating plant than even some hollies.
Right.
So why plant a boring Nellie or Stevens holly that you're going to have to shear every year if you want to keep it 7 or 8 feet? You can do the same thing to magnolia.
Isn't that amazing? So that K. Parris magnolia is just everywhere. It's always been just one of my favorite southern magnolia varieties, and it is just a selection of a cross between 2 southern magnolias. So it's not a complex hybrid. What I'm standing next to here is a lot of complex hybrids. Another complex hybrid he introduced is Melissa Parris, and the story of Melissa Parris is one you definitely want to hear, and here he goes talking about that. So you named one after your mother. Well, tell us about this one.
So a few decades go by, and I had a little bit of a career change. I'd been a plant propagator, a landscape designer, and late in life I decided to start teaching full-time. And I came here to Spartanburg Community College and had to get a graduate degree, and I was lucky enough that Clemson sent me up to Fletcher, and I got to work with Tom Rainey on doing some research on genetics of magnolia, genome size, ploidy, and started tinkering with actual novel breeding of magnolias. And this is one of the first of merit that came out of that work. It's a advanced hybrid. It's got 3 different species worked into it, primarily Magnolia insignis, which is an Asian evergreen with dark pink flowers, and then predominantly it's got Magnolia tripetala and a little bit of Aboveda in it as well. So basically we end up with a pink umbrella magnolia is the morphology that comes out of this. And in 2014 it bloomed for the first time with a 7-inch diameter pink flower, great fragrance, and my wife's favorite color was pink. And so I said, okay, this is how you do magnolias. You pick some important female in your life and you put her name on it. There have been plenty of magnolias that have had the name of someone important in someone's life. So this became the Melissa Parris Magnolia back in 2014. And as you can see, it's got hybrid vigor. It really illustrates
very much so,
when you do interspecific hybridization what the result can be. And the other part of the story that I have to share is I did lose Melissa to cancer in 2022. So I'm glad that this came along and crossed paths with me. It kind of found me and gave me the opportunity to put her name on it, and she'll be remembered now in any garden this is planted. So I'm a big fan of it, and hope other people will be as well.
We actually have a Melissa Parris in this group of 5 magnolias, so that's one of them that's going in. I'm not going to tell you about the others. He's in the process of introducing crazy colors into hybrid magnolias with just incredible things coming. He's also breeding Magnolia type magnolias. Stellar Ruby Magnolia is a Magnolia type magnolia. Those are the banana shrubs, as are the common names for those. Just interesting. Yellow flowers, pink flowers, amazing things coming in magnolias. And again, I'm just going to put these in the ground here to make sure that they stay in good shape. When you get taller trees like this, if you don't have a good way of holding them upright and not having them fall down and be knocked over every single 5 minutes, which is what's happening with them when they're this tall in 3-gallon or 1-gallon containers, it's best to just heal them in the ground. So I just take them out of the container, put them into a fairly moist but well-drained soil, and they'll be much better off here for the next month or 2 while we're waiting for that space down in Wallace to be ready for us to start planting. So we're looking at lots of your magnolia breeding on campus, and one thing you said was that you teach the students that the plants have math, right? The plants have math. Yeah. And so talk about how the math works for K. Parris Magnolia.
Yeah, look, K. Parris we've always assumed was a hybrid derived from Little Jim. That was a seed parent.
Which is a very narrow, upright, very common one in the trade.
Yeah. And Bracken's Brown Beauty, which incredible cold hardiness, great flowering, good brown back. Yeah. And with age, it really has nearly equal width to its height.
Right.
And we've got a comparison here. We try and do that on campus, is plant things within a theme within the garden where we can actually teach by comparison adjacent. So Bracken's here is 25, 26 feet across, and the K. Parris are planted 14 feet on center and intermingle a little bit. So it can be planted a little bit tighter as a buffer or not take up as big a footprint on property. Which
is something important now because, I mean, lots are, there are lots out there in the world that will contain that, but most new lots require us to be thinking about, how are they going to fit? How are they going to fit in a modern landscape? Yeah.
And with a little bit of pruning, that can be adapted to even more narrow space.
One of the main things, if you're getting plants that there's only a few of maybe in the world, is to make sure that you have good tags on them. So we have them written down. We have a strap tag on each of them and a sticker tag on each of them, so that we can make sure that we don't end up mixing these up. But we can't wait to get down to Wallace and get started on that project. And again, we're in the process of collecting some things. And we loved our visit with Kevin. He's just such a nice guy. I've known him for a while, and we run into each other, and I kept telling him we were going to come down and take a look. But that campus and that 2-year horticulture program is like no other. The entire campus is basically a botanical garden. They have their planted space, which we talked about in the video here, which is about 11. I think he said 11 acres. But then the rest of the campus is their playground, and it's just amazing. We rode around with him for a while and just looked at this. Like I say, it's a wild for a community college. You just would not expect, for the landscaping to be this amazing and have so many unique and unusual things, and literally some one-of-a-kind things, from the Magnolia breeding program and other breeding programs he has going on there as well. We also have a dwarf wax myrtle that will be, I didn't put in here, but it's also going to be part of that Wallace planting project. This place is pretty wild. I mean, I've never seen a community college campus look like this. So the students are involved with everything that's happening on campus?
Yeah, it's a great partnership with our grounds crew. Where we have specialty gardens, our students are in charge of keeping up with those in their classes. That's part of their lab work.
Yeah.
There are areas that are sort of like in between. We've got turf areas that we take care of the trees and shrubs, but the grounds crew may take care of the turf in that area.
Right.
So there has to be some collaboration there, but it really gives the students hands-on gardening experience every semester there in the program.
Well, it's wild. And you've got several places that we've passed by where you've taken 2 species Magnolias, and then you've put their cross right with them. So you can go and show the students this plus this equals this. Several places on campus.
Yeah, that's always the objective, is to create learning opportunities. And I know that most people that drive through the campus, it all just sort of blends in together. But we're not about planting monocultures and just planting beds of all great introductions. We want to experiment.
Yeah, right.
We want to hybridize here. We want to introduce new plants. We want to help bring good new plants into the public forefront.
Nice. When we're standing in that, this is your Magnolia breeding program here, or what are you? I mean, you're working with all Asian species and native species of Magnolias, but all over campus. But what is the main thrust of this breeding?
And in this field, which is adjacent to our sustainable agriculture program, they're all experimental trial beds.
Yeah.
They're blocks of 10, 15, 20 of selections from specific controlled crosses. And it's also part of the students' education. Just this past spring, we had great flowering.
Right.
And I was able to bring the students out and let them grade the plants. Pick your top 5 out of these 60 based on flower color, fragrance, growth habit of the plant, winter hardiness of the foliage. They got to take part in that evaluation process.
Nice. And you can select, I mean, now, a lot of times you can now, with this much to select from, you can really go for foliage, growth habit, fragrance, flower. You can get real picky. Yeah, you're getting real picky now.
Yeah, and it's so fun to tell a student, you're looking at something that you can't go buy right now.
Right.
And you may be the first person to lay eyes on the next plant that ends up in someone's backyard.
Right.
Even as far as a decade from now.
Right, and something that's going to wind up in their backyard that's going to be easy for them.
Right.
You're also looking for, it wasn't difficult to grow. You didn't have to.
Right.
You've got them off irrigation at this point.
Right. They get irrigation for the first 2 summers.
Right.
And we're looking at plants that are 5 and 6 years old, and they experience every temperature drop and every drought the average landscape gets.
How low did you guys go on that winter for the December 22 freeze?
We went down to about 8.
You went down to about 8. So we did 13 in Raleigh. So all of these evergreen magnolias experienced 8, but in an ugly way, in a 60 to 8.
Right.
With 40-mile-an-hour winds.
Right. And some took some injury and rebounded.
Right.
And then some took no injury. And so we made note of the ones that had pristine foliage after single digits.
Right. So where a homeowner would be rooting against that kind of thing, sometimes it's helpful,
right,
for a plant breeder to kind of figure things out. Well, thank you so much. I had no idea. You and I have run into one another several times, and we want to come back and film a little more thoroughly. Maybe we were just kind of passing through, and it was amazing. Yeah, what you guys have going on here.
Thank you so much for the visit.
Anytime. Thank you, Kevin.
Anytime.